Welcome to the Association 100 podcast. The A100 podcast is an extension of our Association 100 bi-monthly newsletter that focuses on best practices, top trends, helpful ideas, and smart strategies and tactics that work in the world of associations. The podcast will feature meaningful conversations with association professionals across the country, taking a deeper dive into trending topics, offering insights that both inform and inspire.
Welcome back to the A100 podcast. I'm your host, Colleen Gallagher, and I'm really excited for today's conversation. Samyuktha Neeraja has been working in the association management industry for over 8 years and is currently a state association relations manager for the American Association for Nurse Anesthesiology. In this role, Samyuktha provides consulting services to state associations and assists them with their governance, leadership, and infrastructure-related needs. She's a disability advocate and steward of diversity, equity, and inclusion. She's given various presentations where she shared her experiences as a South Asian woman with dwarfism and how organizations can better support people with disabilities. In addition, Samyuktha co-hosts the A Little Perspective podcast, which is a platform for lifting up voices from marginalized groups. She provides travel guidance for people with dwarfism on her blog, Just a Little Traveling, and also co-authored the best-selling anthology, A Little Perspective, Real Stories of Little Ladies. Samyuktha also currently serves as the immediate past president of Benedictine University's Alumni Association Board of Directors and is a senior advisory member for LEADS, the university's leadership program for undergraduate women. Outside of her leadership and advocacy efforts, Samyuktha is a recipient of the 2023 Rising Star Alumni Award from Benedictine University, the Association Forum 40 Under 40 Award in 2021, and is an ASAE DELP Scholar. For those that aren't familiar, it's the Diversity Executive Leadership Program for the class of 2023 through 2025. Samyuktha, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Colleen.
So can you start by sharing your journey in the association management world and your personal journey too, and what kind of led you to this focus on DEI and disability advocacy?
Sure thing. Thank you. So I've been in the association management industry for 8.5 years. And I can say, I'm sure with what a lot of people say when it comes to the association industry, in that it's a happy ending. It's definitely my calling. I never expected that I would land here and it would be something that I will want to stay in the long term. So I have a master's in public health, so I always thought I was going to be in the healthcare management side, working in hospital administration. But when I came to the association world, I realized like the members that we supported, especially in the healthcare association world, I thought this is where I want to be. This is where I feel like the difference is being made, the impact is being made. And on top of that, I felt that I had a voice. I felt very welcome. I felt that even though my personal journey or the barriers that I've had to overcome just to get to this point, I felt that I had a place in the association world. I am a South Asian woman with dwarfism. Dwarfism is a physical disability that results in adult short stature. So it's from a genetic condition where my body doesn't produce enough cartilage that turns to bone. So that's why we have the short stature in adulthood. So I live and breathe DEI every day. It's something that I can't live without. It's not who I am without DEI. Definitely runs in my blood, and disability advocacy runs in my blood, especially with educating the world about who I am and what I'm capable of. And to be able to succeed in the workplace, to be able to succeed in the association management industry, I have to ask for what I need. I have to be able to fully showcase who I am, to get things done, and to be seen as the human being I deserve to be, and so I could be treated in the way I want to be treated. So DEI is something that I've had to live and breathe, especially with requesting accommodations and getting things I need to fully succeed and fully live as much as everyone else. So because of my shared story, because of my story and personal experiences, it lit a fire under me to be able to ensure that people who are also marginalized, whether they have disabilities or other marginalized identities, they deserve to be in the same space as other people. They deserve to succeed just as everyone else. They deserve to be supported and lifted up as everyone else. And I've just been so proud to see associations really focusing on DEI and really making DEI a priority, especially in the wave of the pandemic and how things have escalated and been amplified since the George Floyd movement and since the shift in the mindset. So because since I've been seeing those things happen, it really empowered me to have a stronger voice, to really share my story, to really be vulnerable, and to really say, hey, this is a really important thing. Why don't I share my perspective as well? So that's how it happened.
That's amazing. Your passion is so evident and it just oozes out of you. So I love that.
Thank
And
you.
what a great description of falling into the association world as a happy accident. I feel like that's how so many of us end up here. And then we stay in this world because
We
it's
stay.
all about community, right? And it's a
Mhm.
good place to be.
It is. It really is. It doesn't feel like there's competition. It doesn't feel like you have to work against something. We're all working for the common good, right? We're all working for our members. So the members have
Right.
what they need to do the best for their whoever, if it's patients, clients, customers. It's all about making an impact. It's all about doing good for the society.
Yeah, 100%. So what are some of those common misconceptions when you think about disability inclusion in the workplace? And what do you think associations' role is and what can they do to dispel these?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the things I noticed about DEI is that disability awareness, disability inclusion tends to get left out of the conversation when organizations, associations make those efforts in incorporating DEI in the workplace. And I totally applaud those efforts, especially when it comes to race and sexual identity and other marginalized backgrounds. But disability is an infection in itself. Disability spans all categories. And I personally benefit from disability inclusion and also racial equity, racial inclusion, being Indian American. But when it comes to specifically disability inclusion, associations or just organizations in general tend to see it as A, it's expensive, A, it shouldn't be a priority because we don't need to do it. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. It's a burden. It's expensive. And they also think that we're not going to hire people with disabilities because they're not capable or we don't think they'll help our organization thrive. So that is something that needs to be dispelled, eliminated, terminated. I want to use all the words possible that needs to stop because we are diverse. We are educated. We have unique perspectives that really enrich society. So it's really important to see that disability inclusion must be prioritized. Accommodations, access needs to be prioritized and budgeted. And more often than not, they're not expensive. A lot of the accommodations don't require more than maybe a couple of adjustments. And associations should see it as an investment because when you bring disabled people in the workplace, you bring diverse perspectives, you bring so much richness and you open your art, you bring a huge community that you don't realize that you're serving. Like disability is not just physical. It is not just something you can see. It is something that you can, not just something that you're born with. It's something that you can acquire. Some person next to you, you may not realize has a disability or has a loved one with a disability. It is something that needs to be brought to the conversation. It's something that needs to be embraced. So I think the first thing is to see us as human, see us as capable, see us as equally contributing members of the workplace. And that will start the conversation.
Yeah. And it seems like something so basic, but what an important thing for you to be putting your voice out there that this is important and associations need to focus on this and need to open up. And time and again, we've seen diverse perspectives makes companies, makes associations better. It just does. We see it happen over and over. So why wouldn't you think more broadly in terms of what diversity is and what that means and who you're applying that to?
Yeah, exactly. There's evidence. There's written hard facts that diverse organizations, inclusive organizations succeed more. When you see this world is changing and evolving, and the landscape is changing every day. And if you want to stay with the times, if associations want to stay with the times, they need to move forward. They need to progress, because not only you, by not including people with disabilities, disabled perspectives, and just all people, you shut out communities, you cease to become relevant. If you want to exist, you have to keep up.
Amen. Very well said. So I know before we got started recording here, you mentioned you wanted to hit on intersectionality. So you've been an advocate for intersectionality within DEI initiatives. Can you talk to me about how this approach can enrich association culture, challenges you might face implementing it? What do you think about on that front?
Yeah, so a little bit more about myself is I am an Indian American woman. I was born in India, and I am also a first generation immigrant. I emigrated here with my mom when I was just about a little over a year to the United States. So being Indian is the core of my identity. My mom made sure that we never forgot our Indian heritage and the Indian roots that we care from. While assimilating in the American culture, she made sure that we grew up learning our history, being immersed in our culture. Indian food, I can't live without Indian food. We go to the Hindu temple. We celebrate the Indian festivals. It is so ingrained in my blood and who I am. And I am very proud of just who I am. And I don't see myself, like, if I'm not Indian, who am I? When it comes to the intersectionality, a lot of times just yesterday I had to deal with something like this, but when people tend to shorten my name without asking. Like, the more often than not, they would call me Sam or Sammy. They would dare not even try to pronounce my name. They would not even try to make that effort. So people don't realize that when you shorten someone's name without asking, it's a microaggression, because you are denying that person's identity. Like, there is history, there is culture behind my name. My name, Samyuktha, means unity in Sanskrit, which is the ancient language of India. So it is very important to me. It is part of my culture and heritage. So I always tell people, please ask me how to pronounce my name. Don't see it as an inconvenience. Don't see it as a burden or another barrier to get through if you're getting to know who I am. So that's another piece of intersectionality. And I always try to say, I want to see more disabled people of color in representation, in leadership roles, because there is another layer, there is another richness of perspective that we offer. And I think the challenges that arise is that it's the fear behind it. Like with the name, you experience fear because you don't want to seem, you don't want to feel like you're embarrassing me because you're mispronouncing it. Or you don't want to embarrass yourself because you look like a fool if you're butchering my name. I think fear is the underlying thing that makes it challenging, because when you see somebody different, when you hear about a new culture or a diverse experience, people are afraid to welcome it. People are afraid to learn more about it because it's foreseen as a threat to that. If we move away from that, if we see people and honor those experiences, acknowledge those cultural differences and intersectionality, that brings a whole new world of inclusion. It creates belonging.
I love the piece about that being your name and not wanting people to avoid it or to not ask you. I think it is a fear of whether it's embarrassment or just thinking, oh, they don't want me to ask. I used to, this is so random, but I used to teach outdoor fitness boot camps before and after work. And I thought it was so important to know everyone's name. And there's sometimes would be 30 people in a class. So it would be hard. And I would always tell them, I would say to me in class, I'm going to call you by your name. You need to immediately tell me if I get it wrong. Please tell me. And I would say that because I don't want to be calling you the wrong name. I don't want to be treating you like that. So I would always say that, and I would enforce that. I have so many names to remember. If I get it wrong, tell me and I will fix it and I will get it right. And I think that really matters to people.
It really does, because I'll be honest with you, yesterday I experienced something. I was in a meeting. We were first meeting with one of our new members, and orienting them to the services. And I introduced myself and I told them who I am, what my role is in the department, and then my other team members introduced themselves. The person that we were working with, the new member, they acknowledged both of my team members' names, but they did not for me. And I talked a lot about, I said, okay, this is how we work. These are our resources. These are the services that we provide. But all they said was, oh, nice to meet you. Oh, thanks for providing that. But when my other two members would talk about their roles, that member used their name. Oh, thank you. And so thank you. So it's very validating because and I could sense that, okay, there's fear in there. Like I was saying, it's an underlying sense of fear that they don't want to pronounce it, or because, oh, that's too hard, I'm not going to say that. But I'd rather have you mess it up. I'd rather have you mess it up, try and mess it up versus like hands off, because it denies that existence. It's almost like you're not acknowledging who I am.
Right. What I love seeing things like, I know you have hear my name in your email signature, and I listened to that a bunch of times and practiced it. And on LinkedIn, they have that feature now where you can have someone click and hear your name. And I do that with so many people. I think that's so helpful. And what a cool feature to be able to get that out there that, hey, this is important. Go ahead and listen to someone's name. Make sure you know it and can take time to learn that.
Yeah, totally. I felt very empowered when I first saw the tool for Hear My Name. I felt very empowering. Yes, it's here. So you have no excuse to stop. So
Awesome. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about more what your association does with the state associations. And would love to know about any impactful experiences working with those state associations when it comes to governance and leadership issues related to DEI.
yes, for sure. So my specific role with state associations is helping them with leadership development opportunities. I help with putting together different leadership events like boot camps or different workshops where the state leaders from the various associations come together to network and develop skills related to governance and leading an association. Because a lot of these members are CRNAs. They are in the clinic. They're in the clinical roles all the time, working in the OR day in and day out. We help them become leaders in their association, in their states. So we provide different programs related to that. We offer financial assistance to smaller states that need help running their association. We have a website of various templates, tools, resources that they could reference so they to help their association. So we do a lot for them. We help everybody. Whatever they need, we are there to help them. When it comes to DEI, our association, DEI is part of our strategic plan, which I'm very happy to mention. And it's a huge pillar of our organization. It's very important to us. And our organization has a diversity, equity, and inclusion director where they work with members, state associations, the A&E committees on DEI programs and initiatives. So whenever state associations need help with any DEI programs or need help addressing any backlash to DEI, our DEI director can work with them directly on those issues. I actually got the opportunity to work with one of the states who was working on putting together a DEI scholarship for their nursing students. So one of the things that they're trying to do is their state associations is offer a DEI scholarship for underrepresented students that are looking to become CRNAs. And because of my experience in the DELP program, I thought, hey, why don't I help them share some of the criteria that I've had to make sure I meet when I was writing my essays for the DELP program. So I got to look at that criteria. I got to concise it down. I just got to edit it a little bit. And so I got to share it with them and they thought it was particularly helpful. They were able to use some of those questions and some of those criteria to create the DEI scholarship. And I had fun doing that. I love doing this stuff. So I really hope that in the future I could do more and collaborate maybe with the diversity and equity and inclusion director to help state associations directly.
That had to be so beneficial for them. And I love seeing you step out of your typical role.
Yeah.
We've done a couple recent episodes on succession planning in associations or how you break silos down. And we talked about how one of the coolest things is if you harness it in associations, you can have the opportunity to do new things and do things outside of your job scope. And that's how you grow your job. And that's how you grow your fulfillment in your job. So really important to do those kind of things.
I agree. I agree. That's how you learn, like cross collaboration. That's what I really like because you learn from each other, all these different perspectives. And again, it's all about helping the members. It's all about growing their organization. And then that's where it comes to DEI specifically too, collaborating with each other, supporting each other. And we need allies, we need advocates because my whole life, I had to depend on my family. My mom especially is my biggest advocate because there are so many times where people would not take me seriously for who I was. I would try to advocate for myself and ask for what I need. They wouldn't believe me or they would just laugh it off. And then once my mom had to step in or another family member, another friend, finally that got through to them. It's sad. It's really sad that it had to be that way, that I had to bring someone in to get what I need. But that's what the world is like right now. It is still like that. So that's why DEI is very collaborative. We have to bring in allied advocates to help us push these initiatives forward.
Yeah, I think your willingness to ask for help is very admirable and it's brave. So I think you're going to make someone else's lives easier because you were willing to take a hard step like that.
I hope so. And that's the thing. I think that's what, as a disabled woman, it's hard to ask for help sometimes because so much of our life, we are already seen as incapable. We are already seen as less than. And this society is set up for us to act as we don't need help. We're capable. We're independent. They always pride independent is success. Success and independence tie in with each other. If we ask for help, that means we don't know what we're doing. We're not capable. But I always try to tell myself and try to tell others, it's okay to ask for help. Being vulnerable is a strength. Asking for help is courageous. Like you don't have to have it all. You don't have to be able to do it all the time. Like we have our days where we will need to rely on others for support, and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So when you're presenting, what are those key messages that you want to convey when it comes to disability inclusion and intersectionality to your audiences, particularly in that context of working in the association world?
Yeah, I always say that when it comes to disability inclusion, one of my key messages is accessibility helps everyone. It is not special treatment. It is not a bonus, add-on bonus for people. It is necessary for our life. It is necessary to uphold our rights as a human being because we all have access needs. If you think about it in the grand scheme of things, there are barriers everywhere. Accessibility is everywhere. We all have access needs. Disability access needs, disability accommodations are no different. That's why I almost now cringe when people still use the term special need because it's very othering, it's very divisive. When you use the word special, it's, oh, like they need special attention or they need it's like extra work or extra care. Or if we learn to assimilate and see disability inclusion as a part of the whole versus separate, then we will be well on our way to achieving our goals and to ensuring that everyone has a say in the organization. That's why I always say also, weave it in your operation. Make it a part of what you do. Don't just have it as a separate structure and use it to check a box. Okay, we hired a disabled person. It doesn't end there. Include them in the conversation, uplift them, have them part of the big discussions, any policy changes, policy making. And I really want to see disabled people of color represented in leadership roles. It doesn't just stop, the buck doesn't just stop as hiring them and making them part of your organization. We need to uplift.
Yeah, that's such a great perspective. Looking at it from the membership perspective and engaging your members, what strategies can associations put into place that ensures they're not just accommodating, but they're truly actively engaging members with disabilities?
The first thing is really just listening to us. Really listening to us and really believing our experiences, because so many times we get those different various misconceptions or microaggressions saying, like, oh, you don't look disabled, or oh, how can that happen to you? Oh, again, it's not seeing us as a pity party, we're like a pity story, or that we're suffering. I think if you if you see us as human, if you treat us as if you would treat someone else. At the same time, I always have a say about the golden rule where it says, oh, treat someone the way you want to be treated. It's not necessarily going to be like that all the time. Everyone has their own individual perspective. Everyone has their own individual experience. And when it comes to DEI and disability, what one disabled person needs is not necessarily what another disabled person needs. So it's really individual. It really comes to the individual and honoring the individual's experience and what they need. And it really starts with self-reflection. If you're interacting with someone with disability, start with, what kind of biases are you bringing into this conversation? What prejudices are you already, what lens are you looking at, right? Where are you looking, and how can you learn to change that? How can you learn to overcome those biases and prejudices that you have? I always use an example, personal example, where when I go to the store, or even in the association world, networking events, when people see me or when people introduce themselves, or I'm introducing myself to somebody and I'm with my other colleagues, this new person will change their tone. They have a regular tone when they talk with my friends or colleagues, but then when they talk to me, they talk to me I'm a child. They say, you, or they kneel, or it's very patronizing. It's very condescending. And I'm just like, wait, you were just talking in a regular tone to the person sitting next to me. Why are you? What was that? So if you're going to say something to a disabled person, but you're not going to say the same thing to a not disabled person, don't say it. Why would you treat me differently? Because I look different. I may need different, maybe I live different. There are a lot of different things about me, or different things in my life that I have to adjust to or to incorporate, but you don't treat me differently just by how I look. It's just basic common sense sometimes.
Right. But common sense is not always, people don't always have it.
No.
No.
We're working on it.
Yeah, exactly. So you have your podcast, you have your travel blog. Talk to me about these platforms, how they've helped you amplify voices of marginalized communities, but also thinking back to our association world, what lessons can associations take from those experiences?
Yes, for sure. Thank you for letting me hear about that. So I am the co-host of a video podcast, A Little Perspective. We are a platform where we provide voices for marginalized communities to share their experiences and share their stories of the impact that they're making in the world that they live in. And we hear from such incredible people and the lives that they're changing. They are awesome. And I learned so much from them, just about the various disabilities or the various experiences. I learned so much just from hearing their stories. And it also increases my confidence in who I am, and to share these stories, and also to share more about myself and to share my perspective. And it's, hey, these people are doing great things. We need to hear more of this. And the lessons that associations can learn is just that we deserve to be in these spaces. I amplify their voices, so associations can amplify theirs as well. It's not just, we're not just limited to a certain angle, like disabled people amplify disabled people. Yeah, that is important. But we need to be in spaces where we are not usually are. That's why by spreading this awareness, and especially with my travel blog, I talk about the experiences that I struggle when I travel, just the discrimination I feel with just requesting these accommodations. And associations can take these tips to be like, yeah, we need to accommodate. We need to prioritize, because when I travel, I'll never forget some hotels when they deny me when they deny just giving me a step stool. One of the main accommodations that I have is I need a step stool to access the bathroom sink, kitchen cabinet, the closet space. I can't function without a step stool. I'm not independent without a step stool. So I always need a step stool when I travel, when I stay at a hotel. when a hotel denies me a step stool, they are denying me access to use the facility, basically. And that's discrimination, which is against the law. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires places of public accommodation to provide these step stools, provide these accommodations. And associations can learn that these accommodations are not detrimental to the association. They are necessary and they are essential. So I really hope that it could spread them.
That's so helpful. I've got one more serious question before we get to the fun stuff. So you've got a lot of leadership involvement, the Alumni Association, the LEADS program. What is your best advice for those brand new young association professionals coming into this world?
Yes, I am hopeful, especially when it comes to what we're seeing in the social and political front when it comes to DEI pushback. I'm seeing in the news that universities are banning DEI programs, or the chief officers in the DEI efforts the roles are not being rewarded, or there's turnover in those roles, and DEI is being rebranded. So I get hope from the young professionals because they're the ones that have been really speaking out against injustice, especially with this social media. We are in a social media era. So I feel like these young professionals have been using their voices more than other generations. So I have hope that they will continue these important conversations. But in addition, my advice for them is to make sure to include all voices. And when it comes to the underrepresented group, my advice for them is to not be afraid to use your voice. Don't be afraid to use your voice and include all voices, because we are working together for the common good. We are working together for a better world, for fairness, for equality. So I think that it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to ask for what you need. You are not a burden. You are enough. You are perfect just the way you are. So I think if we embody those principles, and if the young professionals really strive to include everyone from underrepresented and marginalized groups, then I'm not worried with how the future will go.
That's great. Samyuktha, I really appreciate you sharing your insights today. And this has been so valuable for our listeners. And I just think people can take so much away from this. But before we let you go, we like to wrap up every podcast with our lightning round just for fun questions. So we'll start pretty easy. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Bolingbrook, Illinois, which is a suburb right outside Chicago. I did mention that I wasn't born here. I was born in India, and I immigrated here when I was just 1 year old.
Great. What is your Starbucks order or your go-to morning drink routine?
Starbucks order is non-existent. I do not order from Starbucks, but my go-to morning routine is I always have a cup of masala chai every morning with my mom. That is our chai chat.
Oh my God, I love that. That's so cute. All right. If you won the lottery tomorrow, would you still work?
I would. If I won the lottery, I would still work. I would still do exactly what I'm doing with my DEI passion project. That work never stops.
Awesome. What's the last show you binge watched? And if it's not a TV show, you could do a book as well.
The last show I binge watched was Law and Order SVU. That is a binge watching show. I watch it with my family. That's our family show. I will binge watch it ever again and again.
That's so funny. I always joke if I watch too many of those, I get the SVU nightmares. I start dreaming of the episodes. It's not good.
Yeah. Oh no. It's funny because I'm the exact opposite. My family, it's funny because whenever I want a show to melt my brain and to disassociate, I watch Law and Order SVU.
That's the one. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Too funny. All right. What's a food you can't live without?
I'm Indian, and the food that I can't live without is, we call it Telugu, is a language that I speak at home, and Papuanam. Papu is dal, or lentil. It is a stewed lentils with vegetables, and it's so good. And then over hot cooked rice. Can't live without that. It is a hearty home cooked meal. Delicious.
All right. For someone that has a travel blog, I'm excited to hear your answer to this one. Do you have a bucket list travel destination?
Yeah, there are so many places in India I have yet to visit. Like I've definitely I have the privilege to go back twice since I was born, since I came here, and I need to go back. There are a lot of places in southern India I still have to go to, and also to check out with everything in the north. It is rich. It's so much richness and history and diversity and culture. There's so much that I need to still explore. So
Love it. All right, Samyukta, thank you once again for joining us on the A100 podcast today. We loved having you on.
thank you so much, Colleen.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Association 100 podcast, brought to you by the A100 publishing team, powered by Onward and Upward Marketing and Communications. You can subscribe to the Association 100 podcast on Spotify so you'll never miss out, or listen via our website at theassociation100.com. Follow us for all the latest insights and trends impacting the world of associations. Thanks for tuning in.